A little bit of housekeeping here. We received correspondence October 28, 2021 to Matt Takita from Allstate Auto Sales. As you're aware, I represent the applicant in the above referenced matter. Please allow this correspondence to confirm that the applicant is withdrawing the pending zoning hearing board application with respect to the property located at 981 Lincoln Highway. In accordance with our prior discussion, I will be submitting a revised letter of intent complete with proposed site plan for the existing business for your review. So they're withdrawing the application as it is for Allstate, and I guess they'll be resubmitting, but this matter is now closed as far as we're concerned. We're going to address petition number 1 for Abdul Qadir, 177 Liberty Drive, Langhorne, PA. Requesting a dimensional variance to construct a deck that encroaches into the rear yard's setback. We had an issue with our service. I'm going to turn this over to our solicitor, who's got a little more depth with it.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, as you stated, there was an issue with service. One of the residents, we believe to be not living there anymore, so we had to look into who the actual owner is at this point. So we advised the applicant that the matter could not proceed forward tonight, and we would continue the matter on the record. So I think what we should do is formally open the matter since it's already been published, and also the property has been posted, and we can continue it till the 12/14 meeting.
Excellent, I agree with that. So we'll consider this matter to be opened and announced, and I'll be looking for a motion to continue to the December 14th meeting for petition number 1 for Abdul Qadir and the deck.
I'll make that motion to move the meeting, move the petition to the next meeting, which is on, was it, December 12th?
12/14. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right. So that matter's continued to our December 14th meeting. Hopefully we can deliver that service. Petition number 2, DLB Express LLC, Danny DeLeon, 2300 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Marsville, PA. Zoned RD1, requesting a use variance to permit overnight parking of 3 tri-axle dump trucks and storage of truck parts and associated garage structure. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening. How you
DeLeon.
doing? Good evening, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Great, thank you. We're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter before we get started.
I do.
Great. Now we're going to mark some exhibits for your petition, then I'm going to turn it over to you, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB1, along with the accompanying statement signed by Danny DeLeon, dated October 13th. 2 will be a letter from Falls Township denying the request, or the letter of intent. That letter is dated April 23rd. 3 will be an aerial view of the property. 4 will be notice to the applicant of tonight's meeting as required, dated October 25th, 2021 from Falls Township. 5 will be 4 colored photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. 6 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, showing this matter was published October 26th, and then again November 2nd, 2021. Sir, do you have proof of service to the adjoining or abutting property owners as required? Did you serve the people?
Yeah, I sent the letters out certified mail to them.
Okay, do you have what you sent them? Do you have a copy of that?
I only have a copy of one letter.
Can I see that, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Do you have, this looks like what you want to do with the property, but you had to serve the adjoining or abutting property owners with notice of tonight's meeting, giving them today's date, time, and location of the meeting. Did you do that?
Well, I was told there was 3 owners, 3 neighbors, and I sent that letter to each neighbor. That's one of the neighbors.
Okay, I understand that, but the letter that you have to send them has to give them specific notice of tonight's meeting.
That's, the meeting's in there, November 9th, Tuesday, November 9th at 7 PM, sir, is in bold letters.
You wanna come up for a second?
Yeah, I might have given you the wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry. The wrong letter.
Just wanna make sure I wasn't missing it.
Sorry about that. There you go. This is the right one.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, do you remember what addresses you sent this to, this copy letter?
Yes, sir,
All right, could you state them for the record?
of course. So I sent one to the rodeo owner, Lynn McCullen, 8 Cedar Brook Drive, Cranberry, New Jersey, 08512. Also to Jason Black, 1588 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville, Pennsylvania, 19067. And also to Walter and Sandra Larson, 7010 Swagger Road, New Hope, PA, 18938.
Okay. And what you handed me, I'm gonna mark it as A1, and we'll make it part of the application.
Okay.
A1 states for applicant 1, and that would be placed under it, you swear and affirm that a copy of this letter was sent to all the addresses that you just read to us?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with the minutes that I'm satisfied with that.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Mr. DeLeon, all up to you. What's going on? What do you want to do?
Well, I'm just requesting permission to rent there and to have my dump trucks park overnight. You know, there's a garage attached to it that I use for parts and, you know, like oil changes and small maintenance stuff. So I would like to request, there are two other tenants in the same building. They, you know, they work on cars, with auto body and stuff like that. And I've been there for about, well, the company's been there a little over 10 years, but it has just switched over ownership to myself. It was handed over by my father.
Great, okay. We're going to open it up now. Some of the board might have questions for you, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Scott?
I don't have any questions at this time, Dan.
Thank you. Bill?
No, it seems like that company's been there for 10 years. Just a matter of ownership changed.
Great.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Okay, Al?
So you're saying that you own the building now? It says you're gonna rent this middle unit B, right?
No, I'm not the owner. The owner, Mr. Walt Larson. My father, which was the owner of the company, he's been there for over 10 years, and he handed over the company to myself.
In unit B?
In Unit B, yes.
And all the cars out in front now, are they all?
No, they're a combination of the other tenants. I don't really work on cars. I just work on the dump trucks.
You just work on the dump truck?
Yes.
And there's parking spots for you to be able to put the dump trucks there that you're renting a spot, these are your spots?
Yes, it was part of the lease agreement with Mr. Larson. If you see the map I provided and the application, there's a rear section and where it marked the parking, and that's where I park them.
Okay, that's where you plan on parking, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Great, yeah, I have no questions either. Any public comments for this petition? Any public comments via Zoom?
No Zoom public comment.
Great, thank you. Matt, any correspondence for the township we should be aware of?
Nothing from the township.
Okay, great. Okay, without any further questions, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I move that the application of DLB Express LLC requesting a use variance from section 209-32-4C1 of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to permit overnight parking of 3 triaxle dump trucks and storage of truck parts in the associated garage structures at the property located at 2300 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Marsville, Pennsylvania 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Scott, if you poll the board, please.
Myself, yes. Bill,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
and Dan?
Yes. Mr. DeLeon, your petition has been granted. You'll receive correspondence from from our solicitor's office about next steps.
Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Great.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
Oh, is he? Okay. Summus? Summus? All right, let's get it on. Okay, petition number 3. What's that? You okay? Yeah. Petition number 3, Summus Enterprises LLC, Chamberlin Way and Penn Lane, Levittown, PA. It's on NCR, requesting a dimensional variance for a front yard setback of 10.8 feet from Penn Lane, where a 25-foot front yard setback is required for a single-family dwelling. Good evening, Mr. Murphy. You might be muted. I'm not sure how these things work either.
I think I'm good now.
Now you're good. You have
Good.
some witnesses you'd like to get sworn in before we get rolling?
We can, if the board would permit, as I have done in the past, I can summarize the nature of the testimony to speed things up and then make certainly all the witnesses available for testimony or cross-examination if that would help.
That would be absolutely agreeable.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, potentially there would be 3 witnesses. The principal of the applicant, Rick Monack, who's I see on the screen, Lisa Longenbach, who I see on the screen as a realtor, familiar with the property, and I also think we have Vince Fioravanti, the project engineer, who is live and in person, I'm told, so.
excellent. Yeah,
those- I see him now, all by himself. But if you want to have those 3 sworn, that might expedite things.
it would absolutely. Miss Longback, if you could unmute so you can swear and affirm. Next voice you hear will be our court reporter.
Okay.
Do you want to swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Yes,
Okay, first.
I do.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Lisa Longenbach, Longenbach.
I'm sorry, I think they're talking to me right now, but they're breaking up, so I can't really hear them clearly.
Just asking you to, if you could state and spell your name for our court reporter so she can get it in there.
I am Richard Monack, Richard, Monach.
And Rick, you are the principal of Summus Enterprises LLC, correct?
I am, correct.
Okay. And Vince, have you been sworn yet?
Yes, Vince Fioravanti, Fioravanti.
Okay, Mr. Murphy, now, we have that all taken care of, squared away. We're gonna mark some exhibits for your petition.
Correct. And if Keith wants to do that after we mark the exhibits, then I'll provide the executive summary and we can move along.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB1, along with the accompanying outline of relief submitted by the applicant. Included in the application were several exhibits. They'll all be incorporated as ZHB1. 2 will be noticed to Mr. Blackburn, dated October 25th from Falls Township, giving notice of tonight's meeting. 3 are the neighbor notification letters dated October 25th, 2021. 4 will be 4 colored photographs, 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows that a property was posted as required. 5 will be proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, showing this matter was published October 26, and then again November 2nd, 2021. 6 will be the signed Zoom authorization by Joseph Blackburn, attorney for the applicant. That is all the board exhibits. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Make sure we're not missing anything. Right, that is all the board exhibits. I'm satisfied the appropriate notices have been satisfied. This matter can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Biddingmeyer. Mr. Murphy, all yours.
Good, thank you. And as I proceed, I think what's relevant for people to have in front of them, if they don't already, is the plot plan that has color on it. It shows the lot outlined in green and the proposed driveway and building footprint outlined in a sort of a tan or ecru color. The background of the matter is as follows. The property is oddly configured, located at the corner of Penn Lane and Chamberlin Way. And as the chairman said, it's zoned NCR, Neighborhood Conservation Residential. The property is a little bit more than 5,300 square feet in a zoning district that the minimum lot size is 10,500 square feet. So obviously it is non-conforming. And as part of the packet, as part of our ZHB1 submission, there is a letter from Mr. Takita confirming that the property is in fact legally non-conforming as to its size. This lot was created 70 years ago with the recording of the Penn Village Plan of Lots, and it has been vacant for the past 70 years. And because it is located at the intersection of Chamberlin Way and Penn Lane, and the nature of the curvature of that lot, it requires it to be treated as per the ordinance as a corner lot by definition. So as everyone I think knows on the board, a corner lot is required to have 2 front yards. So it has 2 front yards, a rear yard, and a side yard. And what is being proposed is the construction of a small single-family dwelling as depicted on the plot plan. The building footprint as designed is 27 by 38, or 1,026 square feet. That's the first floor footprint, and I believe that also includes the garage space. So the actual living space is even smaller than that. And the issue tonight is the application of the corner lot requirement that there be a front yard setback from Chamberlin Way as well as Penn Lane. Now, if it wasn't a corner lot, it would have a front yard, 2 sides, and a rear. And the front yard is 25 feet, but the side yard is 10 feet. We could easily, if it wasn't a corner lot, make the 10-foot side yard setback on Penn Lane, and our plan depicts that our proposed setback from Penn Lane is in fact 10.8 feet. The problem is because it's a corner lot and the frontage on Penn Lane has a front yard setback, that front yard is more than double it. It goes from 10 to 25 feet. And if you look at the colored plot plan of the lot, you will see a line that at an angle runs through the building footprint. That is where that 25-foot front yard setback would otherwise be required. So what you would be left with if there had to be full compliance with 2 front yards, a side and a rear yard, would be a 910 square foot footprint, which is very oddly configured, as you can see. So the whole sum and substance of what we're doing here is seeking relief to permit us to maintain a 10.8-foot setback from Penn Lane instead of the 25 feet, so you could have a more regular proposed building envelope. And that's it. That's the whole nature of the application. And as to size, we're only talking about a 1,026 square foot first floor footprint. So the total size of the home, even with the second floor and including the garage, is barely gets to 2,000 square feet. So it is a home that is very modest in size. And absent this relief and given the 2 front yard requirement, we could not build any type of home because it's such an oddly configured building envelope. So I think that's the sum and substance of it. Mr. Fioravanti, you've heard me provide that summary to the board, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I believe, Vince, you have testified multiple times previously in front of this board, and Mr. Bidlingmeyer, I'm happy to qualify Mr. Fioravanti if you think it's necessary, but I'll defer to you on whether or not we should go.
It's
down
fine,
that
Mr. Murphy. Mr. Fioravanti has testified before this board before, so we've already recognized him as an expert.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Vince, you are in fact a licensed civil engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right?
Correct.
And you have now visited the property, have you not?
Yes, I have.
And you prepared the plot plan about which I just spoke, right?
Yes.
And you heard the summary of the overview of the application that I just provided, correct?
Correct.
And is there any statement that I made that you would take issue with, or any other comment that you'd like to add to the summary that I provided?
No, I'm in agreement with the summary. And again, this is a building lot. It's lot 55 of the Penn Village subdivision. So it's not even a fragment of leftover ground. It's one of the lots that was prepared in 1951, just was never built upon.
Right, and you would agree that but for the application of the front yard requirement on Penn Lane, the lot would be, the way you've laid it out on the lot, would fully comply. It has a required 25-foot front yard, 2 10-foot side yards, and a 20-foot rear yard, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So, and you would also agree that if we had to comply with the 25-foot front yard from Penn Lane, what would be the resulting building envelope would be very oddly configured and approximately 900 square feet, right?
Yes, correct. Those regulations weren't in existence when the subdivision was designed.
And with regard to how you would manage stormwater, since I know that some neighbors that have been, sought out for comment were concerned, or at least raised an issue about how stormwater would be managed if a home were to be built here. Would you describe, even though I know it's not particularly relevant tonight, I think it might allay some concerns that neighbors might have about how stormwater would be managed. Could you talk briefly about that?
Sure. Yes, the lot's well configured as a building lot. It is essentially as a vacant building lot. All the utilities are in place. If you look at the plan that's before you, even the rendered plan, the sanitary sewer exists in the street. Storm sewer exists directly in front of the lot. The paving is in place. The curbs are in place. So all the drainage infrastructure that you need is already there. All the utilities are there. Typically for something of this size, we'd have in accordance with the township code, we'd have a seepage bed for underground stormwater management that we could tie the roof drains into from the house. And if there was an overflow, we could tie directly into the storm sewer that's directly in front of the lot. And then that drains through the subdivision and into Martins Creek in the rear of the subdivision. So all the infrastructure is in place. It would be very easy to build a house here.
And obviously, as a condition of any approval that might be forthcoming, the applicant and you would agree that you would need to design any on-site stormwater management system to the satisfaction of the township engineer and the other consultants, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you would agree that but for this relief that we're seeking, a reduction in the front yard on Penn Lane, that the site would be sterilized because you couldn't build a house given the resulting oddly configured building footprint that would result from it if we had to do a full 25-foot front yard, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, and there's not going to be any adverse impact to the public health, safety, or welfare if the house was built because we would comply with all the other rules and regulations in the township, including stormwater management, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's also worth noting that the other lots in the entire subdivision, most of them are below 10,000 square feet, and there are some that are similar size with this.
Right, and I believe, Vince, do you have with you, and you may have already provided them to the board, various letters of support that have been obtained by the applicant from neighbors.
I do have them with me, and I can pass them out now if you'd like.
I think the board should be aware that Mr. Monick has canvassed the neighborhood and met with most, if not all, of the immediately abutting neighbors to solicit comments, and I think the letters of support represent the result of that effort.
Mr. Murphy?
And yes, and, go
want
ahead,
these-
I'm sorry.
Mr. Murphy, do you want these marked?
I would. Collectively, Keith, as A1 or whatever suits your purpose,
I'll mark
I
as
am not
A1.
sure. Okay. Okay, Keith?
Yeah. Yes.
I'll let the board, if the board needs a minute to review them, you can, but
How do we get these?
I think it would be a fair summary to say that those properties that were most directly impacted by the construction of the home on this lot are supportive, including the lot immediately abutting it. So,
Mr. Murphy, do you have these neighbor support letters in a digital format that you could scan and or screen share with our Zoom board members? I'd like for them to be able to see that too. Should be only fair. They're going to be voting on this petition, so.
I don't have them in that format, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if anybody else does on the call.
All right, we can,
Does Vince have a copy?
I have hard copies.
Vince, can you provide those for them?
He did.
Oh,
Yeah, the board has.
I think the board has the hard copies. I think they want to digitally share them with board members that are not physically in the room.
But I don't need to see them.
Okay. We could certainly review who they're from and where they are in relationship to the
Yeah.
plan, if you'd like, but
Mr. Murphy, the chairman's going to send them out to the board members who are participating by Zoom.
okay, fine.
We'll just give them a moment to do that.
Okay.
Scott. Yeah. Oh, you did? Yeah. Oh, you did? Okay, good. All right, Scott, they're coming your way, just so you can have a reference as we're going through some of this stuff, okay? Okay.
If you want us to pick up, I think the reason we wanted to have Ms. Longenbach available tonight would be to address any questions if anyone had a concern that the size of the proposed home was somehow out of step or character with the size of homes in the immediately abutting area. And that's what Lisa would confirm, that the proposed size of the home is consistent, if not smaller, than some, if not many, of the homes in the immediate area. So Lisa is available for questioning if either board members or anybody in the audience would have a question for her along those lines. So,
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. You want to entertain some board questions and public comments and things now at this
sure.
point?
I
Okay.
think that's essentially the nature of the testimony that we would offer. I would move the various exhibits that have been presented, and certainly both Mr. Monick, Vince Fioravanti, and Ms. Longenbach would be available to answer any questions.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll open it for comment and questions, and you can pick who the best
Okay.
suited person to answer that question would be. So,
Sure.
Great. We're going to start with the board here. Al, you have any questions?
I have nothing, no.
Excellent. Scott?
I'm just looking at the impervious surface calculations that they have here. Does that exceed the township minimum?
Vince, you can answer that it does not, but we're not seeking any relief from her.
It's proposed at 26.1%, where the maximum is 40%.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Bill?
The impervious surface, I see that on the chart, on the blueprint.
Right. We're well below.
So
Right.
Yeah, I see that. Now, the only thing that you're asking here tonight, let me get this straight, is the setback on the secondary front yard
That's right.
from 25 to 10, whatever, 10.8 or whatever you said it
10.8,
was.
that's correct. Yep,
And that's all you're asking for?
that is.
All right, I just wanted to understand it. Okay, I have no more.
Okay, Bill, thank you. I can only imagine that everyone's kind of going through any iteration of trying to design a house to be as aesthetically pleasing on this lot between Mr. Fioravanti, Ms. Longenbach. So I can only imagine you guys have gone through all those paces and everything to make sure it looks nice in this neighborhood. So I don't really have a question. That was just kind of a thought. What's going to open up for public comments? People, yep. Okay. So, ma'am, if you could come forward, Mr. Fioravanti, if you could yield the podium.
Sure.
Just one at a time. Yep. Oh, no problem. So what we're going to ask you to do is if you could just state your name, spell it for our court reporter.
Michelle with one L, and the last name is Fisher, Fischer.
So this is becoming public testimony, actually. So we're going to ask you to be sworn in by our court reporter, okay?
That's fine,
Thank you.
that's fine. Yes.
Oh, and if you could just give us, state your address for us.
15 Chamberlin Way.
Okay. Thank you. Now,
You're
it's all
welcome.
yours, ma'am.
Okay, number one, would we be able to see who these people that were canvassed, these letters, who they were that agreed to it? Because
Absolutely. We can,
everyone
Yeah.
that we have talked to in the neighborhood has said,
you could take this copy, ma'am, and you can share it with everybody back there as part of the record. Absolutely. You're welcome.
okay, that's the first thing. Everyone has really been devoutly opposed to this for one reason. 10 feet from the curb or the end of where the property ends, I don't know architecture and things like that, but it's way too close. You can't see when you come around that corner. It's dangerous to begin with. Years ago, we had one boy hit on a bicycle. His leg was broken. This was a long, long time ago. A lot of you probably weren't even born yet. And then there was another one who was hit on a bike. One of our, police officers who isn't with us anymore, his son. It's dangerous corner, very dangerous corner. We have a lot of little children that come to the neighborhood for grandparent visits. Other children that live there, play there. It's just dangerous. 10 feet is dangerous. Cars coming around can't see. A child coming, it is too close. The 25 feet that was established by our framers 70 years ago, that seems to be what is really adequate, normal, good. But to have 10, a little over 10 feet, no, that is just, and for vehicles coming around, and now you have a house there that's a distraction. You have a car coming this way, another one coming this way, children, no. It is a definite safety hazard. Anybody that cares to ride through there and see it can absolutely, you'll see what me and the other neighbors, what we are talking about. The other thing is the disruption with construction going on. You have a lot of little children in the neighborhood. As I said, grandparent visits, family visits, children that live there. They're always over at that corner of that property, always, every day. Today I stood there at the door and watched 4 of them out there having a great time with their hockey sticks and basketballs. And it's fine, because there isn't anything blocking that. They can see a car coming around. If there's a house there, they won't. And originally, 70 years ago, when this property was constructed, it was constructed, Bray Brothers wanted it. They laid the foundations in that area, and they constructed it with the idea in mind that that field would remain for the children. The children, yes, they have Falls Township Park if somebody can take them there, which is a wonderful place. But other times, it's, let's go over to the field. My son grew up in the field. My daughter grew up in the field. And I have grandchildren now in the field. It was left vacant so that the little ones could have a place to go. The neighborhood used it. We had a block party, I would say 30 years ago. It was a wonderful block party. One of our township police officers that lived in our neighborhood, Officer McKenna, he was the one in the dunk tank. We had all kinds of things. That was what the field was used for. Now they want to put a tiny house. They want to take more property, come forward, and take away from what we have there. Our visual impairment is going to be strong coming around that corner. It's a danger. It isn't good. I know my husband and I both definitely opposed to it. And whoever this man was that came to our house, this canvasser, he didn't go to anybody else's house in the neighborhood that night. He came to our house. Neighbors next door said, "Why did he come to your house? Nobody came here." And then there was another neighbor who said, "Nobody came here." He went to one family that I know of, they rent, and he went to another house where the people weren't home. They had a guest there that said that he was there. The other people, no, I don't know. He came to my house, and the people from church were there. We were having a Bible study. He came in. He was most indignant, which really set everything off. And I said to him, "Well, I can't sign yes to anything." I says, "Before I do anything, I like to read it. I like to study it. I like to know about it." I said, "I'm not going to do anything. Give me a day or two to digest this." So my husband and I talked about it and so forth, and I said, "Eddie, look at it." I says, "You have a car coming this way, another car this way, and the kids aren't going to be able to see. At least this way they can see. They have that whole field to look through to see if a car's coming from over on Penn Lane up, if a car's coming around Chamberlin Way. They can see, but it's just no good." And whoever he was that supposedly canvassed the neighborhood, I know he canvassed our house because I asked him to leave. And I didn't do it sarcastically. I just told him, we're having a Bible study, we're having communion, would you please leave? So he did. And then he showed me a paper that had names on it. He said, "This is who signed." And I looked at it, and it was highlighted in yellow. And I said, "Those people moved 16 years ago." I said, "They don't even live in the neighborhood." So dismissing him, he isn't the issue. The issue is the little kids. Little kids nowadays, the only people they have to stand up for them are the adults, and some of the adults really don't care. The children have to have adults stand up for them. And I just totally feel that it is wrong in the interest of the children. It is not a safe thing to do. If that was a bigger lot, it would have been used years ago. My dad, after his stroke, which was in 1991, tried to buy the lot so he could live across the street from me. And when he called, the township told him, "No, it is not buildable." They said, you can't construct anything on it. And my father tried. He made them a wonderful offer. No. Neighbors have tried. Neighbors that lived across the street from me years ago tried. Couldn't do it. Neighbors that lived to some of the adjacent property there, they had tried. Nobody could. They were all told, no, you can't build on this. It isn't sufficient. And now, all of a sudden, and when I look at it, all I can see, I have 2 little grandchildren. They live in the neighborhood. And all I can see is my granddaughter Lily not paying attention, as she never does when she's on her bike, coming around and not seeing a car. So that, I'm totally opposed. If you want me to sign anything, I will be happy to sign it. And that's where I'm going to leave my thoughts with you tonight.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
We should probably ask you, there's, you can have your public comment, you can say anything you like. There's also another level, if you'd like to be granted party status.
What would that be?
So you'd have Mr. Billy Morrow will explain a little better.
Sure. So when you're granted party status, you can ask the board to be granted it, first of all. Let me rewind a little bit. If you are granted party status, you actually become a party to this matter. You can call your own witnesses, you can question any witnesses that are presented by the applicant, and most importantly, if you don't like the decision that comes from this board tonight, whatever they vote on, you can appeal that decision, okay?
I don't know if I'm smart enough to do something. I really don't know if I'm smart enough. I might leave it up to one of the other neighbors that is more adept at any
Sure.
type of business matter, because
You don't need party status to voice your public comment like you're doing now. It's just an option you have that we have to give everybody.
Okay, well,
Okay.
that I can do, but to be in some sort of a decision-making capacity other than that of
No problem.
an old woman who's a grandmother, that's as far as I can go. Someone who's a little more adept, smarter. I'm not smart enough to, and I'll admit it, I'm not ashamed to. I'm not bright enough to do that. All I'm bright enough to do is to protect my grandchildren, so.
Okay.
Well, anything else you want to ask me, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, this was your time, so.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and
You're
bring these back to you when I'm finished?
No, you can keep those, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We scan them in, so we have a copy if we need them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much, and you have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Any further public comment, questions? Sir, same thing. If you could actually be sworn in by our court reporter now, then you'd state and spell your name and your address for us after that. That'd be great. Thank you.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. All right, I'm Ed Fisher. I'm her husband that just spoke. I guess we've been there about 44 years, and that lot there on the corner, to build a house there, I mean, if you really go and look at it, you build a house there, it's dangerous. When cars go around there, it's very, very dangerous. You can't see anybody. But so be it. The only thing I want to say and add, this man that came to our house around 7:45 last Thursday, he was asking me to sign a variance that I felt it's okay to build a house there. And I said, well, I'm not going to sign anything. And I said, well, do you have any signatures? And he said, well, yeah, I do. I have one. It struck me odd. The signature that he had was a lady that moved out of the neighbor's house 20 years ago. Now, where did he get that at? She moved out of the house in 2000. So I don't know what that's all about, but that sounds strange to me. But it's no place to build a house. It's a dangerous corner there. I don't have anything to add because my wife said everything. So I'm not in agreement with no house being built there. There's no way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Teresa Donahue. I live directly across from where they're talking about building.
Ms. Donahue, if you could be sworn in for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
Yes, I do.
but the truth. Spell your last name,
Donahue.
your address.
64 Penn Lane, and it's Fallsington, 19054. Ready? I live directly across, and my concern is that the streets are very cracked. The drainage system that they're talking about is, I agree with everybody, what everybody's talked about. The drainage system is falling in, and I've called the zoning, the board, the road commission, whoever it is, to come out, and they said there's nothing they can do about it. Now, with the new construction, my concern is that it's just gonna start caving in more and more. And that's what I need to know, what's gonna happen. We don't have sidewalks in the neighborhood. There's a lot of issues with the cars coming around the corner very quickly. It's 25 miles an hour. I tried to get it down to 15 miles an hour. And now with this new house, it's just too much traffic in our neighborhood. And that is my concern.
Thank you.
I'm really upset about it. Because
Thank
it's
you,
been
Ms.
there like
Donahue.
my whole life. I've lived there my whole life. And it's just like something that's disappearing. And it's, just open land. It's just nice to see the kids out there playing all the time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good evening, sir.
My name's Donald Merriman. Merryman. 72 Penn Lane, Fallsington.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
True. First off, what's the configuration of this house going to be on that piece of land? Where is the driveway going to be?
It's right to your right there,
Can
sir.
I see it from back
I'm
there?
sorry, yeah.
You never-
Sorry about that. I didn't know if there was anything on the back of that. I apologize. But please, yeah.
How are they getting their electric? They're going to put the electric underground across the road, they're going to put a pole in?
I'm not sure I heard that, but probably Vince can answer that question, if that is a question.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
Mr., if you would like Mr. Fioravanti to answer that question, or if you want to answer the
I
questions in,
think I heard it. I think that it's a question about where utilities or how utilities.
how he's going to get the
would route it.
utilities in?
Yeah. This up here, come across the street here?
That's a storm sewer line, storm sewer, yes. And the utilities are shown are the underground water and storm water and sanitary sewer. We don't show the electrical utilities in the area, but we would take either service underground or with an overhead similar to the other dwellings in the neighborhood.
You can't bring it in from this side because, they got a pool and everything there. So the only place you can bring it from is across the street. Now, you're gonna go underground, you're gonna put a pole in their yard.
We haven't gotten that far with the design yet, but we'll get it either overhead or underground.
Okay, and, is this where the driveway's gonna be? Right
the-
here?
No, the driveway is here.
Right here, and this goes in the Chamberlin way.
Right to Chamberlin.
Across from Mr. and Mrs. Fisher's house. And what kind of vehicles are you gonna store there? Commercial vehicles like they have out in front of my house now? Woke me up 3:30 last night again, out there idling.
I believe it's just a residential dwelling, so it would be a typical residential vehicles at the dwelling.
What about the vehicles they have out there now on the street, blocking a trash truck or UPS truck?
We can't speak to that, sir, Mr. Merriman. That's not anything for this board to be considering right now. That's something you would call the township about.
I've done that.
Okay,
plenty of times.
but that's neither here nor there. Mr. Fioravanti has no idea about any of those vehicles. He's only speaking to the house on the lot as it's sitting right here, and he did the engineering on it, so.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hence why you're there, and maybe you could address the common thread of some of the comments that we've heard about site distance. I think, and correct me and educate all of us about the selection of the location for the driveway on Chamberlin was not done without thought to site distance and access and the issue with having access on Penn Lane, correct?
Yes, and I'll go through quickly how the site distance will work. and how we feel this will be safe, and of course, that'll have to be verified by the township engineer as well. I'm going to approach the
Yes, sir.
exhibit.
Fierabati, if you could, I mean, you can probably situate that to the audience.
Sure.
Be allowed a public comment first, or?
Well, Mr. Fierabati, he was asked a direct question
Okay,
by a public
got it.
comment. We're going to allow him a chance to, just to rebut slightly. Then we will get back to public comment, sir, though. Absolutely. Everybody who wants to be heard on this matter is going to be heard.
See if I can do this without dropping it.
Thank you.
Things aren't the easiest things to rotate. Okay, can the board see this as well?
Well, yeah, we have copy too, so,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm going to approach the exhibit that was rendered, same as the plan that was filed with the application. What I'm going to do is comment on the site distance that would be available in two directions as you approach this acute angle in the street. If we're traveling, I'm going to call this in an easterly direction on Chamberlin, and we're going to make a right to Penn Lane. You can see from the exhibit, as the car starts to approach what we call the point of curvature on the street, you're already past the dwelling. So imagine yourself in the car, and you're coming to this intersection, and you start to travel past the dwelling. You look to the right, you can see past the house. There's probably 10 feet here, then another 25, then another 38, all the way to the point where the oncoming vehicle is going to be approaching you. You're probably another 60 feet past that. So sitting here, before you start to turn your wheel, you can see past the house and all the way over into Penn Lane, past the property, and you can see someone coming. So as you're making the turn, you're going to know if someone is anywhere in this vicinity in Penn Lane. So that's the site distance to the right. If you're traveling, what I'll call as northwest on Penn Lane, and you're coming towards the intersection, it's wide open here because the house isn't in the way. And as you start to approach the intersection again, the line of sight starts to rotate around the house, and you start to see down Chamberlin Way. So the house really isn't blocking you. You can see there's a lot of green space between the house and the point of the curved lot. It's not like the house is 10 feet from the intersection. So there is enough room that you can see around the house as you start to approach this intersection. Now, one thing we could do, just to further enhance it, I don't know if anyone would even want to consider this or not, we could have a speed bump or stop sign. We could have somebody stop here. And every time they come in, that'd be the safest thing for any of the kids, whether this house was here or not. If people are really concerned, everybody's concerned about the safety of the children. For $150, I can have a stop sign here, and then people are going to stop and they have to look, and it'll be even safer than before the house. I mean, I'm speaking for the applicant here, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing that if it makes everyone feel better. But we do think that the site distance is adequate here.
Vince, one other thing, not related to that, but a comment addressing one of the other neighbor questions, and that is the plan from 70 years ago, what we refer to as the plan of lots for Penn Village that was recorded in 1951.
Yes.
I know somebody suggested that it was to be open space. There is no reference on that recorded plan or in the title that this lot was ever intended to be open space. It was always intended to be a building lot, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I do have the full-size rendered exhibit. Rendered, I have lot 55 colored in on the subdivision plan, and it's just another one of the building lots. And there's actually other lots that are similar in size. So there's no notation whatsoever that was to be open space.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. We're gonna get back on the public comment, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Okay. Sir?
Good evening. Hi, my name's Joe Warner. I live at 85 Penn Lane. We're right up against the property. We're on the opposite side.
We're gonna have you be sworn in, if you don't
Penn
mind,
Lane.
sir.
Yeah, Warner, W-A-R-N-E-R.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So anyway, he was talking about the property and it was intended to be built on. I don't really think that's true. I came in here a few years ago and spoke with Peter Gray when he was township manager. I had a meeting with him, asked him if it would be buildable. He said no, absolutely not. And that was the extent of the conversation. It was just real short. He went in the back, looked at something, said no, I don't think that's going to happen. The second thing about pervious surface is that field, when it rains, even if it rains a little bit, it stays wet for days. The water doesn't absorb because it's a small area. I don't know if any of you have been out there to actually look at the property and the way it's set on the turn, but it's not dry, and it's not big enough to do. If you put a house there, the water's going to go everywhere. And one of the neighbors that already spoke, has taken care of the property for years, cutting the grass and trimming it and everything. He knows that the property's as wet as well. All our kids play out there. All the neighbors, there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood now that are little that are coming up. That's where they all go. There's nowhere else for them to go. But that's kind of besides the point, but it is the point. About the traffic coming around the bend, it's tight. It's real tight. If you have two trucks on the street at the same time, like Amazon, one's got to back up so the other one can go around the bend. It's real tight. And it's the kind of street that you either live there or you made a wrong turn. It's not like a cut through. It's nothing. We get traffic on there a lot. They get stuck. Trucks come down the street that aren't even that big. They have to back up around the bend, or they drive over the curb through the field. This is going to be a problem. Putting a stop sign in there, that's not the answer, or a speed bump, because it's too small of an area to do that. It's big enough for what it is, but it's too small to start putting speed bumps and stop signs. There is a stop sign in there at the one corner. And like I said before, there's not a lot of, either live there or you made a wrong turn. There's no room for this. The other, I was looking through the letters of the people that signed the thing. One of the people, they're renters. They don't know anything about the neighborhood. They haven't even been there that long. The other person that's on there, he's part of the people that are here tonight trying to build there. I mean, yeah, I guess his opinion matters when you're trying to build there and you live there. It's pretty convenient. The other neighbor had mentioned about utility as well. That is going to be a problem for sure. I think the township needs to get out there and take a bigger look at this, see what's going on, and come by after it rains, see how wet that field is. That field's always soaked. And you said something about it was like 24%. What was the exact number?
They're allowed up to 40% impervious. On the
Okay.
lot, per the
And
township.
what was it?
They were under, 21? 26.1 is what they'd be covering right now, with the driveway and the house, as it were.
So, yeah, there would be a big water runoff problem for sure. And as far as the driveway where it goes out, that's probably going to be an issue too. I think the whole thing is going to be an issue. The reason that the field has stayed vacant for all these years is because everybody in the neighborhood was kind of under the same understanding that it was just always going to be there. It was going to be a field. It was never going to be built on. And another question is, when this was, I know who their owner was who owned the field for all these years. When she had passed away, how did this become available? Was it bought through taxes, or was it for sale on a website, or?
That is not a relevant question.
I agree with that. We don't have any of that information, sir.
Just,
Yeah.
none of us, all of us have tried to find out about it, but all of a sudden somebody buys it that's not even from there?
That's nothing that would ever be turned over to us anyway, so.
Is this house a house that somebody's building to live in, or is this one that's just being built to be sold as an investment home?
Again, that is not a relevant
Well,
consideration.
kind of is. We'd like to know who our neighbors are going to be if it does go through. I mean, is it somebody that's here tonight? I'd like to meet them.
I agree. They're gonna build a home there. I mean, it's kinda.
Right.
It's a single-family home, two-story.
Right. Yeah, definitely
We can't really
opposed.
say, that everyone's gonna get to be able to vote on who gets to live there and things of that nature. That's kind of discriminatory, actually.
Right, well, I wasn't trying to go there as,
Absolutely.
in them
I
terms.
didn't think
but
so, but,
I just didn't know if the person that wanted to build there was here tonight. Maybe they could speak and tell us what their intentions were, more than somebody representing the company, the home.
Yeah, we're just giving the players in this one, and we try to bring all the information that they're gonna, that
that's
they
all.
legally have to present to us, so.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Sure,
It's
absolutely.
a tight little neighborhood, and to do this is just kind of not the right thing to do. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. If we could have you sworn in, and then you could spell your name and give us your address, that'd be great.
Rebecca Patterson, Patterson. I live at 85 Penn Lane.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Good
sorry,
evening,
I
Ms.
agree
Patterson.
with all of my neighbors.
I'm sorry, I missed your address.
85 Penn
85.
Lane, I'm the owner.
Thank you.
You're the abutting on the other side of
Yes, the one that was never spoken to.
Mr. Warner. Okay.
Yeah.
You did receive a correspondence? She's abutting, right? 85? Okay. You received the letter about the meeting and everything, right?
About the meeting, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But you were talking about someone that had come around.
Oh, I wasn't. I guess
Okay, I didn't know anything.
Mrs. Fisher had
Right,
mentioned
about
that
seeing
maybe
it.
someone was going around. We have no information about that. We weren't briefed about that or
I
anything,
understand.
so yeah.
I have the same concerns that my neighbors have, especially with the previous area. The storm drainage in front of my home is falling in, it has been. And not to drag the meeting out any longer, because everything they've said is the same thing that I feel.
Okay, your comment will
Previous
be,
area,
will be in the
10
record.
feet from the street, all of it.
Understood.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Any further public comments or questions? Any public comments via Zoom?
No public comment on Zoom.
Matt, did we receive any other letters than the ones that were presented by Mr. Murphy?
There was nothing else.
Nothing else, okay. Any further board comments, questions in light of any of the testimony?
I have none.
Scott? Al?
No.
Mr. Murphy, if you care to, offer anything in close?
I don't think I can offer more than what I did originally. This is obviously an irregularly configured lot. Absent the relief that we seek for the front yard setback on Penn Lane, the lot becomes sterilized because there is no available regularly sized building envelope in order to construct a home. So effectively, it becomes a de facto taking situation. And what we are proposing is, in fact, it meets the spirit and the intent of the ordinance. We have a front yard, a rear yard, and a side yard that complies, and we're proposing another side yard effectively on Penn Lane. The house is not overly sized. We gave thought to how we would locate the driveway on Chamberlin so as to avoid any site distance issues. We'll comply with the stormwater regulations of the township. And we think it's a good, reasonable use of the property given its current zoning. The lot's been available for 70 years, and it seems logical to us, based on the relief we're seeking, that it's the minimum relief that we need in order to make a reasonable use of the property. So I think that's our position, and I think the evidence supports it.
Mr. Murphy, can I just ask also that we can let Lisa comment? We had her prepare a presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Lisa, you've heard my summary of the nature of the testimony that you would offer. If you want to simply run through it quickly, that's fine. But I think the board understands that you believe that the house as proposed and sized is consistent with the house sizes in the neighborhood, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Actually, we also believe it'll bring the value up in the neighborhood.
Lisa, feel free to provide some comment if you'd like. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went through the neighborhood public records because there's not a lot that sells back there. And I could appreciate, you're in a small little neighborhood there, so I understand how the neighbors feel. And the highest sale price in there since 2019 was $290. I could look up the particular house. I don't remember which one it is, but I think the value of this is going to be higher. The fact that it's a new construction, they built a beautiful home, so I know none of the neighbors would dislike the home itself. It's not going to be overly large where it looks like some sore thumb, you know what I mean, sticking out some crazy new house, but I think it'll fit well within the community. But in looking at the comparables for a house this size you know, with the garage and whatnot, you're looking at 350 to 375 easily in a price range, which is a number that hasn't really been seen in there at least since 2019. So I don't think it's going to hurt any neighbors' values. I can't speak to the other stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Montague, you were saying something else too, prior to asking for Ms. Longbach to be able to present?
No, I actually just wanted to let the neighbors know that the house that was going to be built would not hurt their property value.
Great, okay. Mr. Murphy, some of our board is asked to move into executive session for a few minutes here in brief.
Sure.
So we're going to take that time right now, and we'll be back
Very
on the
well.
record about maybe hopefully less than 10 minutes. Okay?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, as you stated, we took an executive session. The board discussed this matter further, and also the concerns raised by everybody involved.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everybody. We appreciate it. Mr. Murphy, I'm going to move on since I believe you did close.
Yep.
Okay, great. At this juncture, I'd like to see if someone would like to make a motion for this petition.
Move that the application of Summus Enterprises LLC requesting a dimensional variance from section 20920F and table 1 of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to allow the front yard setback of 10.8 feet from Penn Lane where a 25-foot yard setback is required for a single-family dwelling at the property located at Chamberlin Way and Penn Lane in Levittown, Pennsylvania 19054 as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Scott, poll the board, please.
Myself, yes. Bill,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
and Dan.
No. So your petition has been granted. Mr. Murphy,
Thank you very much.
you'll get correspondence back from our, from Keith. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on, petition number 4, Arlo Steel, Cornelius Signage, 17 Progress Drive, Marsville, PA, requesting a dimensional variance to install two facade signs which exceed the allowable 32 square feet. Are they all via Zoom? Okay. Good evening,
All right, good evening.
Jason. It's just you tonight?
Just me.
Okay, great. I'm gonna have you sworn in by our court reporter.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Could you state your name and spell it, please?
It's Jason Torok, Turok.
Okay, Mr. Turek, we are going to mark some exhibits for your petition through our solicitor, and then we're going to turn it over to you, okay?
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB 1. 2 will be a permit denial letter from Falls Township dated October 11, 2021. 3 is a letter to Falls Township from Cornelia Signage dated October 15, 2021. 4 will be a notice to the applicant, Jason Torek, in regards to tonight's meeting as required. 5 will be 3 pages containing 3 color photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. 6 is a site plan. 7, proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier-Times showing that this matter was published October 26th and then again November 2nd, 2021. 8 is a Zoom authorization signed by Jason Torek. That is 3 pages in length, dated October 25th, 2021. Previously submitted by the applicant is proof or notice to the adjoining or abutting property owners. I have marked them as A1. The letter is signed by Jason Turek, and it states on page 1, dated October 22nd, the following neighbor owners have been notified via postage, prepaid, first-class mail, sent October 22nd. There was two tax parcels included. The form letter submitted by Mr. Turek satisfies the notice requirements for tonight's meeting. And Mr. Turk, now that you've been placed under oath, you swear and affirm the letters dated October 22nd went to the tax parcels as listed as number 1 and number 2 on your letter.
I do.
Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notice has been satisfied. This matter can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Bittingmeyer. Mr. Turk, what's going on?
We're seeking a variance for 2 facade signs on the Alro Steel building. That will be at 17 Progress Drive in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. The 32 square feet currently allowed under the zoning ordinance would be too small for their intended viewing distance and size. The building consists of 2 signs, one on the north elevation. The north elevation facade of the building is approximately 21,950 square feet. The sign on that side of the building would take up approximately 362 square feet, which would be about 2% of the square footage of that north elevation. The sign on the south elevation, it's about 630 square foot for that sign, and the facade of the south elevation is 21,847 feet, so it's about 3% of the square footage of the south elevation facade. The north elevation will be internally illuminated channel letters. It's a day-night application where they will appear black and non-illuminated during the day, but at night they have a red light. And the south elevation is non-illuminated, aluminum signage, logo and letters saying Alro Steel.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. See if our board has any questions about the sign. Scott?
No, Dan, I'm good. I'm seeing this here on the drawings and it looks okay.
Bill?
I have none.
Al?
No, I have none.
No, I have none. Any public comments, questions? For the sign there, Bill? Any via Zoom, public comments, questions?
No Zoom public comment.
Matt, any correspondence we should know about?
None from the township.
Okay, great. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. I move that the application of Arlo Steel Cornelius signage requesting a dimensional variance from section 20945Q5B, the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to install 2 facade signs which exceed the allowable area of 32 square feet at the property located at 17 Progress Drive, Marsville, Pennsylvania, 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Scott, poll the board, please.
Yes, myself, yes. Bill,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Turk, your petition has been approved. You'll receive a letter from our solicitor about next steps, things of that nature, okay?
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
For
Have a
your
good
time.
night.
You too.
Yeah.
All right, petition number 5, Fairless Properties LLC, Matt Chaplin.
Yes.
For, 332 West Trenton Avenue, requesting dimensional variance for a proposed sign, which has an area of 120 square feet, which exceeds the original sign's area. Mr. Chaplin, we're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter.
Okay.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Great. If you could state and spell your name for our court reporter too, that'd be great.
Sure, it's Matthew Chaplin, Chaplin.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to mark some, exhibits for your petition. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application as EHB 1. The application for zoning appeal, I should say, I'm sorry. 2 will be permit denial letter from Falls Township dated October 1st, 2021, addressed to Fairless Properties LLC. 3 is a statement in support of the application sent to the Board of Zoning members dated October 18th, sent by Matthew Chaplin. 4 is a rendering of the proposed sign. 5 is an aerial view of the shopping center. and applicant's location. 6 is another rendering of the proposed sign. 7 is notice to the applicant giving notice of tonight's meeting dated October 25th, sent from Falls Township. 8 is 3 colored photographs on 3 separate pages, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. 9 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier-Times, showing this matter was published October 26th, and then again November 2nd, 2021. 10 is the Zoom authorization signed by Matthew Chaplin on November 1st, 2021, giving authorization to hold this matter by Zoom. We received previously the proof of notice to the adjoining or abutting property owners as required. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark these collectively as A1. The top page states regarding 332 West Trenton Avenue variance, and it states, I hereby certify that on the 25th day of October, copies of the attached notices were mailed via first-class postage to the following owners. Two addresses are listed and is signed by Matthew Chaplin. The letters that were attached satisfy the notice requirements as required by the code. Mr. Chaplin, you are present?
I am.
Sir, and what I've read as A1, you certify that the letter that you sent to the township was sent to the adjoining or abutting property owners as listed on your certification.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notices have been satisfied. This matter can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Mr. Chaplin, what's going on?
Hey, so the company that I'm working for is Fairless Hills Properties LLC. They are just renovated the shopping center, and they want to bring their sign up to date with the shopping center. The current sign is 60 square feet, and with the 10 tenants that they have in the location, they're complaining how small the sign is, especially when going down the speed down the street. So they want to double the sign's square footage to 120 square feet, which if you look up and down the street, the signs that are in the area are much larger than the current sign that they have. I think doing that will definitely help bring better current tenants to the location, and it won't hurt the visibility or anything of any of the current buildings that are around the area. That's pretty much it.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll see if the board has any questions. Scott?
Absolutely.
No, I see what they have here. It looks pretty clear.
Okay. Bill?
No, I have none.
Al?
I have none, no.
No, great, I have no questions. Any public comments, questions for the sign? Nope. Any public comments through Zoom?
No Zoom public comment.
No, thank you. Matt, any correspondence through the township?
Nothing from the township.
Great, thank you. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that the application of Fairless Properties LLC requesting a dimensional variance from section 20945 U2A of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to allow a proposed sign which has an area of 120 square feet, which exceeds the original sign's area at the property located at 332 West Trenton Avenue, Marsville, Pennsylvania, 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Scott, pull the board, please.
Myself, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And Dan?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Chaplin, you'll get a correspondence from our solicitor's office about next steps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Petition number 6, SIV Ambulance, North Olds Boulevard and Lincoln Highway, Fairless Hills, requesting the following dimensional variance to construct a service facility to sell and repair ambulances. To permit 22 parking feet from an adjacent street line instead of 30, that is otherwise required, and section 20923G, table 4, to prevent a front yard setback of 75 feet instead of 100 feet. Good evening, Mr. McGinnis.
Good evening. I'm not smart enough to figure the microphone out, apparently. I'll detach it.
If you want to have your witnesses sworn in now.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Sergio Civ and Vince Fioravani.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
I do. Could you state your name and spell it?
Sergio, S-E-R-G-I-O, Civ, S-I-V.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now, our solicitor will mark some exhibits for your petition. And then we'll
Mr. McGinnis, do you have any pre-marked exhibits?
I do not, no.
Okay, talk to me. All right, Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB 1, along with the variance list and statement in support submitted by the applicant. 2 will be noticed to Mr. McGinnis, providing notice of tonight's meeting, dated October 25th, 2021. 3 will be 3 colored photographs on 3 separate pages, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. 4 is a proposed site plan for this application. 5 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, showing that this matter was published October 26th, and again November 2nd, 2021. I've been handed by Mr. McGinnis a packet that I'm going to mark as A1 for applicant 1. The top page states certification of service. And Mr. McGinnis, the list of property owners that are attached on the back page all received notice
That's correct.
attached as Exhibit A.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm satisfied the appropriate notice have been satisfied, and this matter can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Mr. McGinnis.
All right, good evening, everyone. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is Civ Ambulances, and the subject property is located at North Olds Boulevard and Lincoln Highway. The tax parcel ID is 13-17-12. It's a 3.63 acre property, and as I think the board might be aware, the property is adjacent to the property which is currently used as a Social Security building. I was going to make a statement that it's vacant. That's only partially true. It is vacant in that there aren't any structural improvements, but the property is currently improved by this large parking field, which is on our subject property, which is zoned HC. We are proposing the construction of a 30,000 square foot ambulance service facility and office to repair and sell ambulances. And one of Mr. Fioravani's exhibits shows, and we'll cover this briefly in a bit, that this property has always been intended for future development. Back when the Social Security building was constructed, the actual layout and design of the future development on this site and the building envelope, which is shown on that plan, is substantially similar and consistent with what we're here proposing tonight. And that's I think it was a plan approved in 2000. One of the 2 variances which we're seeking, which pertains to the front yard setback of 75 feet, was actually previously granted by this board, but it was granted a number of years ago, I think in the 80s. So obviously that has expired. And we've communicated with the township about this. We wanted to follow the procedures correctly. We submitted a sketch plan, which was provided to Mr. Jones and Mr. Takita. And one of the things that came up, which really isn't before the board, but just in the interest of full disclosure, was I can't say I have too much experience with ambulance sales. So the question was, is ambulance sales a permitted use or a conditional use? And so that this board understands the sequence of events that we're proposing, it might not surprise you that Falls Ordinance doesn't have an ambulance sales particular subsection, and it was determined it was more akin to the sort of use denoted in the conditional use section. So if we're fortunate enough to receive the variances from this board tonight, what we're going to do is we will appear in front of the Planning Commission, and then we'll appear in front of the board from the conditional use standpoint. And again, if we get those approvals, then Mr. Fioravani will do the full land development plan, and we'll go through that process again and reappear in front of the Planning Commission and in front of the Board of Supervisors. In addition to this being and cover the specific, who Civ Ambulances is and the use briefly. In addition to being, I think, a good business here, from a traffic standpoint, there's obviously going to be a limited impact there. We're anticipating approximately 15 employees. There's not a lot of retail foot traffic associated with ambulance sales, so there's going to be little customer traffic on the site, so it's basically going to be limited to the employees that Civ Ambulances would have at the site. The two variances that we're seeking, I already noted 209-23G, Table 4, to permit the front yard setback, as is illustrated on the plan, of 75 feet, whereas 100 feet would otherwise be required. And then we have a second variance, which is to permit right here a 22-foot setback, again from Lincoln Highway, for the parking field, where 30 feet is required. That's from 209-23H2. What I would propose, if it's acceptable to the board, is I can summarize Mr. Civ's testimony. And certainly, if you want to hear directly from him about who Civ Ambulances is, he's present and happy to provide that. And then just have Mr. Fioravani do a very brief walkthrough of the site plan that he's prepared.
That would be acceptable.
All right, thank you very much. So if Mr. Civ was called to testify, he would affirm that his role as the principal of Civ Ambulances, that they're the equitable owner of the subject property, that they currently operate a facility in Langhorne, which they have substantially grown out of, that the property which we are developing is vacant other than the improvements noted tonight, that Civ Ambulances basically remounts, paints, repairs, and sells ambulances, that they deal with both local and non-local EMS units, and that's obviously consists of the bulk of their customer base, that they're here to build a 30,000 square foot building that would be primarily used, again, to service and repair ambulances and then to sell those ambulances once repaired. The typical process is they will take in an ambulance. All of the work associated with any of the ambulance and EMS vehicles is done to the internal portion of the building. There is going to be absolutely no repair or work done to the external portion of the building with respect to the ambulances. As the case may be, they will dismount, repair, paint, provide any upgrades that would be warranted to the vehicles, including from a graphics perspective, then remount, and then sell the ambulances. If you go on Civ Ambulance's website, there is a list of vehicles for sale, and that the bulk of their ambulance sales, again, comes from entities that will access their website and purchase the vehicles through their website. The construction, obviously, would be a new building, and that soundproofing and other aspects that the board would expect would be part of this, as to limit external noise that's provided. There's a very little retail component, and that there would approximately be 15 employees on the site. Those 15 employees would be comprised both of technicians who would work on the repairs of the ambulances and salespeople. The parking addition that would come as part of this, as you can see, would be on both the rear and the front portion of the building, that the site is already, the impervious surface with the site is already primarily comprised of the parking lot, which is improved. That the office building that I referenced before for Social Security exists on the neighboring lot, that the size of this building is in keeping with surrounding buildings in the community, and that there's no reason that Mr. Civ knows that this would be detrimental or out of character with other buildings or uses in this area. And again, that would substantially consist of Mr. Civ's testimony, and Sergio, you're here. Can you please affirm to the board or correct any errors or omissions that I've provided? I affirm. Okay. And then, of course, at the end, he'll be happy to field any questions. And then Mr. Fioravani was already sworn in. I think if I could just have Vince, and I believe, again, in a prior application, he was admitted as an expert. I won't go through that again, as long as that's okay. And I'll have Vince just do a brief walkthrough of the site and what he's prepared for tonight.
Yeah, I think the best way to do this is to start with the plan of the existing features. You'll see the words copy on it. This is a recorded plan that was recorded October of 2000. This is essentially what we're starting with on this project. And as you can see, you're at a distance, but as you know, the lot that we're talking about developing, 13, 17, 12, is improved with half of the parking field, the shared parking field between the two lots. So it's essentially a graded building pad, an improved building pad. If you look on this plan, also says future development, shows a 75-foot setback that was granted with the previous variances. One thing to note on this existing plan is that all the stormwater management facilities, the water, the sewer, all the utilities are all installed, even the landscaping in the parking lot, to completely take care of that parking field, so that the utilities do exist, and it will be a matter of just tying into those when this future lot was ever developed, which 20 years later is finally, hopefully, going to happen. When we look at the rendered exhibit now, the background of that exhibit is the plan that was recorded in 2000, and I have been out at the site, and it is relatively accurate in terms of what exists at this time. If you look on the far left or the west of the site, you can see the proposed building. And you can see in the lighter blue the proposed parking. There's a number of spaces that are proposed to be added. A couple of spaces will be lost due to the fact that we'll have overhead doors to drive the ambulances in for the repairs. But that's more than compensated for by the additional parking that would surround the building. The parking on the north is where the 22 feet would be, where that variance would be against Lincoln Highway. The stormwater system was reviewed and approved back in 2000. That was a long time ago, and the requirements have changed since then. So we'll have to take a look at what's underground and look at today's codes, and we've discussed this with the township engineer. So we'll have to model the system that's there, and if it needs to be supplemented, we'll have to do that to get the approval. So that's probably one of our biggest research tasks, is what was approved and comparing it to what was required for today. But other than that, it should be very straightforward and relatively easily in terms of building and site construction. I think that was basically the summary, if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fioravanti. Want to open it up for board questions?
Yes, thank you.
Probably a good time. Okay, well, see if the board has any questions. Scott?
Yeah, I'm just curious about, is there going to be any storage of vehicles there? Are they going to be taken care of inside the building, or are you going to have a surplus of ambulances out there?
Well, and again, Sergio, if you want to come up, but my understanding is there are going to be some ambulances not dissimilar to a typical automobile dealership that will be in the external portion of the building, but the ambulances that are being worked on and repaired are all going to be repaired in the interior. So it's not the case that every ambulance the entire time it's on site is going to be in the interior. My understanding is that would be a misrepresentation, but when the ambulances are being repaired, worked on, et cetera, it's all going to be to the interior.
Okay, thank you.
Bill?
Yes, looking through the papers you filed, where is your hardship letter? I haven't seen what is the hardship for these variances.
So in terms of the statement of support?
No, a hardship letter means.
Yeah, so you're asking basically why we need the relief that we need tonight.
Well, I'm saying usually when people file a variance, one of the requirements is a hardship letter. I don't know if I just don't have my packet or we don't have one.
Mr. Kieran, the second, it's actually the third page attached to the application. At the top, it states variance list and statement in support. I believe that's what Mr. McGinnis is referring.
That's considered a hardship letter?
If you're asking about the justification for the relief that we're seeking, the answer to that is, again, the site, when the site was approved and was designed, I think originally 35 years ago and then 20 years ago again, it was envisioned, and again, there was, as I mentioned, a variance that was previously granted for the setback. We are looking for, and I don't know if you can see this plan, the dimensional requirements on the site in terms of building coverage, impervious surface coverage, et cetera, we're all compliant with. So what we're proposing here, we're complying with. What we're asking for, really, pertains to the fact that we would like to add a parking field closer to Lincoln Highway in this area. I think, technically speaking, based upon our parking calculations and how this site is going to be construed, we could probably eliminate those 12 spaces on this site and be compliant with respect to the setback from Lincoln Highway. But we're trying to, I think, accommodate what would be the township's desires when we go through the land development process by having an additional 12 spaces, because in part, a portion of this parking lot right now is subject to a reciprocal easement and parking agreement, which is unique to this site with the Social Security building. So we're trying to, A, come into the township, and B, come into this site particularly, and to be good neighbors to the township and be good neighbors with the Social Security building who are going to be utilizing a portion of this parking lot. So rather than allocate a number of spaces here, we, again, would like to permit the Social Security building to continue to utilize our property, which they've been utilizing presently, and to add additional spaces to make sure we're not in a situation where we're underparked because of that unique circumstance. So we've added 12 spaces to the portion of the property that abuts Lincoln Highway, and because of that addition, to try to be proactive and to offset any future concerns, considerations, which I would suggest will be the case regardless of any commercial use. And most commercial uses at this site, which it's zoned for, are going to have a greater parking requirement than this use will, and more employees than this use will, more customers than this use will, would be to add those 12 spaces, which requires the 8 feet of dimensional relief. That portion, again, could we construct this site and eliminate those spaces here and get rid of that variance? I think we could and still be parking compliant, but we don't think it's a benefit to the township if we do that. We don't think it's a benefit to the site if we do that. We're still under our impervious surface calculation, and we don't think it's a benefit to the Social Security Administration if we did that. So that's why we added those spaces there. And with respect to the second variance, which is the setback variance, again, if you look at, and Vince, you can confirm that this is correct, I believe, if you look at the setback from Lincoln Highway, A, it was anticipated at a prior iteration that this would be 75 feet setback from Lincoln Highway rather than 100 feet. And B, it mirrors, I think, the setback of the Social Security building. So we thought the design would be kind of odd if we push this further back than the Social Security Administration is set back from Lincoln Highway. And B, again, we basically tried to mirror the building envelope of what was approved before. So those are the two reasons why this site was designed the way it was. And we tried to be cognizant of not over-designing the site from a building coverage standpoint, from an impervious surface standpoint, but we thought those two variances enhanced the property, were beneficial both to us, to the township as a whole, and require fairly minimal dimensional relief. So I don't know if that answers the question or if I over-explained it.
No, that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So the 12 spots up front really is precautionary, because you don't know how it's going to work out with Social Security.
Correct, and I think, to be candid, I'm always, we always try to be mindful of how a site, this is going to be approved for civ ambulances, hopefully, but in the event that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they sell the site, we want to try to make sure this is a commercially zoned lot, that there's adequate parking for a future commercial user as well. So we don't want to under account for parking and then have to have people come back if the site's ever sold, and then they have to get parking relief, or there's an argument that it's not sufficiently parked. So those were all the factors that went into how we came up with that additional 12 spaces on that portion of the property.
All right, thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Al?
Hours of operations, what do we plan on doing for operations on this?
8 to 5, typical. Oh, sorry. Good evening. 8 to 5.
8 to 5.
Monday through Friday. Typically, we're closed on Saturdays and Sundays.
This is because we have residents right there, and the entrance, I'm trying to figure out where the entrance, is that the entrance going and the exit come right out here towards the neighbors?
Off of Olds, right.
Yeah, that's the entrance, and how about going into the building and out of the building? One way into the garage?
You want to address that?
Because that's the front entrance you're going into from the social security building, you're gonna walk in that way, but where are you driving into that building?
Well, there's a square you can see on the building that would be in phase one on the corner of it. So that would be the main entrance in here.
That's the walking entrance, where you
Yes.
drive into the building.
The drive-in doors are.
No, he wants to know when
How am I gonna get in that
Yeah, right
building
here,
and work
right
inside the building to drive?
Right here, the main entrance is right
Yeah.
here. Yeah. This entrance, I don't think we're gonna be using all that much.
We have the right to,
Right.
with the easement agreements that are in place, but that's not going to be the anticipated primary port.
You're working on these vehicles inside the building, right?
Correct.
How do you drive, where is the entrance into that building you're gonna drive into?
The overhead doors.
The overhead doors.
Right,
Oh.
so there's overhead doors and 3 sides of the building. It's hard to see at this distance, of course, but there's a couple of spots here that are gonna be taken out, the overhead doors in the lower right. The spots here, as you come in the entrance from North Olds, so the overhead doors here, you come in.
Okay.
And on essentially the whole lower part of this is overhead doors on 3 sides.
Okay, so you're gonna be pulling straight in and backing straight out with backup beepers. So you got nine in and outs, right?
Yes, or you could come in and, I don't have the plan for the interior, could come in and drive out straight. Don't necessarily have to back out.
Right.
Could come in here and come out here.
Okay.
And we will be looping this around, so you could come in, come out, and, without backing up.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions. Do you plan on utilizing any of the parking for storage of vehicles or for sale vehicles on the Social Security easement side property there?
No.
No? I mean, I know now, like, of course, you can't even keep things around. I'm sure ambulances might be the same way. But, year after year, have you had an abundance of vehicles that had to be kept and stored on site? Because I'm just wondering.
No, we think based on the usage from Social Security that, they might be utilizing a portion of our property, but it's not anticipated that we will have a need to utilize any of their property for this use.
Another question, it's gonna seem a little odd, but do you guys test the sirens during the day?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Inside?
Inside, yes.
Okay, no problem. Do you guys have a rendering of the building possibly, like the architectural rendering what it might look like from the street views and stuff?
We haven't.
Nothing available
we
yet?
haven't gotten that far yet.
No problem. Understand.
One other thing I will mention is we do have, I don't normally give up brochures at a zoning hearing board, but if it's helpful and anyone here, of course I apologize because I can't provide that digitally, but if any of the board members want to actually take a look at kind of, what this is, we're happy to provide this if
No
that would be
problem.
useful.
Just trying to get an idea what it might look like. And I understand the office building is 2-story, but the main area is a 1-story commercial size, obviously. I don't think it's gonna be 8 feet high, at least like 18 to 20 feet high, and then the office building might extend above that line.
Yes, correct.
From what we're thinking. Okay.
That's an accurate summary, yes.
Yeah, I understand we don't have maybe the full even complete building of it yet, or facading and stuff like that, so. That's all I have. I understand there is some public comments via Zoom.
Yep, we're bringing in Tony now.
Okay. Good evening, Tony. We're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter. Then you state your name, spell it, and if you could provide us with your address after that, that would be great. Next voice you hear will be our court reporter.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
If you could spell your name for us.
Okay. Tony Batiste. Tony's with an I. Batiste is Battiste.
And your address, ma'am?
218 Gloucester Road, Fairless Hills.
Thank you. And now the time is yours.
Okay. You have 15 employees that you're expecting. You've grown out of your Langhorne site, which tells me you're going to have more business than you had before. And I don't know how much that was, but it means more than just 15 people, including sales and service. So you're at an intersection right there, which is a rather hazardous intersection. It's been the site of numerous accidents. Now you're going to have more cars or vehicles coming in and out of the entrance onto Olds Boulevard and possibly out onto Business Route 1. The problem's going to be if you're going to be building a building there and you want it closer than what the than what the zoning allows right now, there's going to be a problem with viewing the traffic coming from the right. There's already one that's traffic coming from the left at that intersection, because where the gas station is, they've got bushes built up and they're getting higher, and it's becoming very difficult, unless you're in a really tall vehicle, to see around that corner. Now you're going to have traffic coming the other way, and also worrying about traffic coming into Olds Boulevard. I think that's going to be a bit of a problem. And also, right now, you have Amazon trucks that have been parking in the Social Security lot, I believe, and they will come out of that same entrance. So that's going to be a problem with people coming in and out of that entrance and backing up into your red doors. Since you're including sales, I'm concerned that there might be noise, including public announcements and outdoor speakers, which could be an issue to the people who are on Edgemont, Gloucester, North Olds, and Cardiff. I would like to know what's planned for the current trees that are along the Lincoln Highway and North Olds roadways. And also obviously the really old tree that's in the middle of where you want to put that building. And it's withstood there for ages, and it's survived flooding, which is frequent right there. That area is a marsh. When it rains, it's very marshy. Behind the Social Security, where you're showing that big, huge strip of green, there is a creek that goes all along behind there. It comes down all along Gloucester Road past my house. That's why I know it's there. But that becomes a problem with the rain. If you're going to be covering over that marshing area, what's going to happen with the potential flooding to the residents that are on the properties on North Olds and Edgemont? Two other things. If you're going to be using paint and solvents for the vehicles, what are you going to do to contain that odor and possibly hazardous air quality? Because right now, where that gas station is and on the other side of it, they do paint stuff. Well, right behind them, there is an open field and an open parking area, and the kids' fields and tot lots and stuff. Well, the problem is when they do their painting and they open those doors, because I guess it's hot in there, all that smell and all that questionable air comes out. Now, right now, there's nobody actually living right behind them, except I guess some of the apartments may smell it, and maybe a couple people that are right there on the far end of Edgemont might. But you're going to be next to people who are all backing on Edgemont and the poor guy there at North Olds Boulevard. So what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with all the trees that are on Lincoln Avenue and Oates Boulevard? And how much impervious surface is actually on your lot and how much is actually allowed once you put the building there? I think that's all the questions I have.
Mr. McGinnis, feel free to, in turn, call your witnesses to answer. Yeah, thank you.
I'll try to address some of these, and maybe if Sergio answered the paint question. The impervious surface is 67%. There's 70% that's allowed in the zoning district, so we're under by a couple percent in terms of what's permitted on the site. In terms of the Langhorne operation, just to, again, maybe this will make you feel better, perhaps not, that the building in Langhorne is about half of the size, and there's 8 employees, I think is the number of employees. So we're actually accounting for the growth that you're referencing. It's not we're taking 15 employees from Langhorne and moving them here and are being successful. It's the smaller building in Langhorne is the building that's been outgrown, and we're looking to move our employee base from 8 to 15 with the site. So we are taking that into consideration. The street trees, well, a couple other comments. I know our engineer has depicted on the plan that's sitting here, I think it's labeled as Martin's Creek. So that is something that's noted on Mr. Fioravanti's plan, and he has begun correspondence actually a couple months ago with the Township Engineer's Office from a stormwater standpoint. That portion of this project, again, if we are fortunate enough to receive zoning approval tonight and conditional use, we're going to have to do a full stormwater analysis with the township engineer because we have a legal obligation to make sure that based upon our development, we're not adding additional stormwater to any of the residential properties. So that's a legal requirement that we have, and the township is going to review that as we go forward with our land development application. But we are aware of the creek, we are aware of the existing conditions, and they are noted on the plan. Same thing with the street trees. I don't know if, I think some of them are depicted on the plan, but we have requirements in terms of not just coming through and eliminating street trees. That's part of something that will also be addressed during the subdivision land development portion of our application, which is after tonight, but we're aware of that and we have certain responsibilities with respect to trees. Regarding traffic, this use, because there is not there are a limited number of employees that are associated with it, and there isn't going to be customer traffic very infrequently that people are going to actually drive to the site. You have a 3.6 acre commercially zoned property that somebody could come through here and utilize, like for example, a normal car dealership, and that is all permitted in the zoning district, or a small shopping center, a number of uses that are going to generate significantly more traffic. And I say that sincerely as compared to what this particular use is. So if this lot is developed in the future with any number of uses that are permitted in the zoning district, they are going to, basically based upon almost any use, going to have more street traffic than what we're proposing. And just to be clear about the setback requirement for the building, the intersection of North Olds and Lincoln Highway, our building is set back significantly from there. So we're not asking for a variance to allow that to be closer to the intersection. We're just asking for a variance to permit that to be basically the same distance. If you drive by and you look at where the Social Security building is set back off Lincoln Highway, this building footprint would be in the exact same location. It would be the same distance to the road as the Social Security building. So the variance for the setback is just from Lincoln Highway. It's not from North Olds, and it's not from the intersection of North Olds and Lincoln Highway. I think I addressed a number of the items. I can't speak to paint other than the statement that that's all going to be internal, and it's an item that you're, I'm sure, handling presently at the Langhorne site.
Right, I can address that. Hi, good evening, ma'am. I just want to, you had asked a question about painting. So we had, just last year, had purchased a brand new 130,000 dollar spray paint booth. So it's not an old booth. It's a new booth. The technology in the booth is that it removes the most paint, spray, and fumes from the air as possible. So it meets all the different standards from the EPA that are required. So I don't think that it's going to be an issue. Now, you had mentioned somebody painting out by Sunoco. I'm not sure if that's a paint booth there or if it's not a paint booth, if it's somebody painting outside. We're not painting outside. It's going to be inside in a paint booth all the time.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Batiste?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have another public comment to load?
Bringing in Elton now.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. We're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter, and if I can have you state and spell your name and you give us your address for the record.
Elton Ebersole. Last name is E, B as in boy, E-R-S-O-L-E. And I reside at 813 Edgemont Road.
Okay. And we're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter now.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ebersole. If you could have your public comment, sir.
Okay, so basically I'm right there. Our home, our backyard faces your proposed building, okay? And a lot of concerns. I'll start out with, the fact that we are in close proximity. But I'm concerned about the site and height of the building. What am I going to be looking at, okay? And also, I'm concerned about excessive lighting during when it gets dark, okay? I'd rather not have my whole backyard all lit up at night, okay? Our bedrooms along Edgemont Road, all the residents' bedrooms face that vacant lot back there, okay? The other thing I'm concerned about, I am a millwright and machinist by trade. I've been a consultant for over about 25 years now. I'm still concerned about the noise, okay? I know the noise that air compressors make, okay? Hydraulic pumps and motors, all right? And especially sirens. I worked in the steel mill for some time, and I know what a furnace horn sounds like when it's going to go. So I'm very, very concerned about that, okay? The other thing is the paint and oil and solvents. I heard you speak about this new paint booth that you have, okay? I'm concerned about the exhaust, okay? Is this something that needs EPA approval? Or a department?
I'd like to see that in writing.
Yeah, we would, if this goes through, we would definitely, I would think that the township would want to see something like that.
Yeah, we
okay?
don't want to think that it's okay. We want to know from the EPA that it's okay.
You can't be talking right now. Okay. All right. So the other thing is, there's been vandalism. Okay. You folks on the board at Falls Township there, you can look it up rather easily right here at the Sunoco station. Okay. There's been cars in that parking lot that have been robbed. Okay. So, it's gone up drastically just in the past 3 months. Okay. So, we're concerned about that. All right. We have all sorts of activity back here that from my seat, it should be monitored closer. Okay. It needs, we need the police to get back there more and monitor that. Okay. Okay. So can there be cameras installed, things like that? Okay. Mrs. Batiste talked about the drainage problem where that tree is. Our son, and kids still do, okay, they actually play hockey, ice hockey, in the vicinity of that tree, because there's often up to a foot of water there. Okay, so I'm actually giving you some information, okay, about the topography of that area there. Okay, it does flood. Okay, even, and it doesn't have to be a heavy rain. Okay, I would say there's probably water there 270 to 300 days a year in and around that tree, as much as probably, I want to say 30 to 40 yards square. Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, and it does freeze in the winter, and the kids are able to play ice hockey. Okay, now again, we have the Amazon vans, which Mrs. Batiste mentioned as well. Okay, and every day around between 11 and 11:30, there's a caravan of about 25 to 30 vans that are parked here. All right, and those vans are coming in and out of there at all hours of the day, and even in the evening here of late. Okay, so you know, very, very concerned about all of these. Okay, and last, okay, we on Edgemont Road were very concerned, okay, with the possible depreciation of our homes here on Edgemont Road. Okay, you know, having a big building like this put behind our homes, it just isn't something that we want to see. So basically, those are all of our concerns. Okay, and I want to stress again the importance of the paint, oil, and solvents. Okay, I understand a paint booth. Okay, I understand how a paint booth functions. Okay, but if this thing does get approved, okay, and I hope it doesn't, okay, I would hope that the township would insist on some kind of EPA approval. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ebersol. We're going to allow Mr. Siv to answer, and Mr. Fioravanti too also. So I guess one of the questions was the lighting facing Edgemont Road.
Sure. And a couple comments, I guess a three-pronged response with respect to the lighting. My understanding is that lot, as it's currently situated, is presently backlit right now as we're here tonight. One of the benefits of this business compared to, and I don't remember if it was Mr. Bidley-Meyer, Mr. Miles, or Mr. Brooks asking about hours of operation, on a commercially zoned lot, a lot of the uses that can come in here are going to have a nighttime component to them. And as Mr. Siv stated tonight, the hours of operation here are strictly during the daytime, so from 8 to 5 p.m. So there's not going to be a need with respect to our operation functioning to have a heavily emitted light aspect, unlike some other commercial uses that could come into this site. We also submit, and this would be for Mr. Fioravanti to comment on, but through the process with the township, because as I indicated earlier, it's multi-phased, there is a lighting plan and other aspects that would be supplied to the township to make sure that there isn't any sort of what I'll call light pollution spilling over and affecting the properties on Edgemont. We're very cognizant of the fact that even though this is a commercially zoned property, it abuts a number of residential houses. And certainly, Mr. Siv, I don't speak for Sergio, is committed to being a good neighbor and a mindful neighbor in the community. And it's not going to be the case that we come through here and you get a building built and now all of a sudden there's this great outpouring of light that's impacting your property. I can assure you the township will review our plans to make sure your properties aren't impacted from a lighting standpoint. The other thing that I will comment on is, and I apologize, I don't remember Tony, I don't mean to be informal, your last name either, but Mr. Ebersol, you would receive correspondence from our firm, I presume, as part of this, which also has my email address. If you were here tonight, I would hand you a card. As we go through this process, if the zoning hearing board were to approve this is not an empty offer. I am more than happy to include you in the process to make sure, to the extent as possible, we can take your concerns into consideration, keep you apprised of the process. So things like, you know, how is our paint booth compliant with the EPA, and, you know, what the township's involvement is in that, or our lighting plan, those sorts of things. I'm more than happy to include you in that discussion as we move forward. So you can feel free, again, if we are approved after the meeting, please send me an email and we will include you in that dialogue. What I also want to say is I have to, you know, I try to be very candid in these presentations, and part of that is I can't stand here and say we're going to solve all of your issues. We are not the entity that operates the adjoining property. We do not have an agreement with Amazon with respect to their vans. We don't have control over that. So I am not going to stand here and say if this is approved, your issues with the adjoining property owner and the use on that parcel are going to go away. We can only control and make representations to you that are within our own control. One of the things I do think I can say, though, that you raised is vandalism. I would throw out the possibility that you have a likelihood of increased vandalism with an unimproved lot here, that we have a financial interest, if this goes through, of making sure that there's no vandalism on this site, because it would negatively impact our business. So I think that component you might see some improvement with if we're able to, again, build this facility, because we certainly, ambulances are valuable. We don't want anybody coming through and potentially committing any vandalism on the property. So I can't speak to security cameras and things, but I'm sure there will be appropriate measures taken in that regard, both to protect our interests and to protect the residential interests of those homeowners. So again, I understand your concerns. I'm not going to stand here and say, you know, we can fix everything, but I can make the commitment that please contact us, and what we can address, we will.
Okay, with reference to the vandalism that we're concerned with, basically, what we're seeing is this building being causing possible activity to be able to hide. Okay, again, we see people, and I've actually taken pictures, okay, of people walking, because they come back and they'll hide in certain areas. Cars come back and they park. I've even seen activity where people have taken packages out of their vehicles, okay, and have put them behind our homes. Okay, so you know, the activity is definitely there, and what we're concerned about is the openness going away. Okay, I mean, we already see the activity. Okay, with a building there. Okay, that's going to, you know, it's definitely not going to be easily seen from US Route 1. Okay, and even North Olds Boulevard. So that was the other thing. Okay, also, is it going to be darkened at night? Okay, so if the lighting isn't going to be an issue, is it going to be, you know, like darker? I understand about the lighting that you're talking about now. Okay, but it really doesn't have that much effect on our backyards. Okay, so you know, it's a definite concern. Okay, the activity is already here. All right. You know, so we've got to, we can't help them. We can't help these people hide, okay, and commit the crimes that they commit, okay? And, you know, again, the corner gas station, the Sunoco, have been repeatedly robbed, especially over the past actually past 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
carburetors.
Yeah. So. Okay, and the other thing is, okay, we're the oldest. We've been here since 1976, July of 1976. We're only the second owners of this home. But we've seen all our old neighbors go away, and we've got young people here, okay? And we have infants, okay, on the same side of the street as us, that their backyards, okay, are going to be facing this building if it's approved, okay? And you know, there's newborns, okay? Right now we have two newborns, one on the way, okay? And that's on either side of us, and then 3 doors down, okay? You know, with the sounds of air compressors, hydraulic pumps and motors, sirens. I mean, I know what these things sound like, and for this to be, you know, in a home community, and somebody trying to tell me that it's going to be soundproofed, you know, you're just talking to the wrong guy. Okay, I know better. I've been in industrial maintenance for 52 years. Okay, so that goes away. All right. So and again, okay, I can't stress enough the importance of the paint, oil, and solvents. That issue. Okay. You know, it's an issue, and it should be treated as such.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ebersol. And just as a note here, because a couple people have brought this up, as of 11/1, Goat Logistics, who were operating the Amazon trucks in that area, should no longer be operating out of that area. They're no longer operating, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's been verified that Amazon is no longer operating out of there. So they had given temporary use, and so they're no longer in there. So that wouldn't be any part of the ongoing nature of that lot.
At least of our voice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any further public comments, questions on Zoom?
We have Kelsey on the line.
Okay, we could bring in Kelsey. Good evening, Kelsey.
Good evening, how are you?
Great. We're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter, and then if you could state and spell your name and announce your address for us, that would be awesome.
Sure. Do I start?
You can.
Do I start? I do.
If you could just state and spell your name and give us your address.
Sure. Kelsey, Kelsey, Bookbinder, Buchbinder. I represent the building adjacent to this building that has been discussed a few times in this meeting. It's 450 Lincoln. Can I proceed with my question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, sir. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I know that there's been some commentary about our former tenant, Goat Logistics, who, as you are all aware at this point, were not granted a continued use and occupancy on our site. Seeing that this is a similar use case, my understanding is that their use and occupancy was rejected due to the fact that they were using overnight parking at the facility. I'm just trying to understand where the line is in terms of what's permissible and what is not. It would seem if this is a reasonable use and occupancy with overnight parking and long-term parking of vehicles on site, as well as the coming and going of ambulances, a use case similar to that, which was Goat Logistics at my site, should be permissible as well. So I'm trying to understand you know, how this use differs from that one, and if that use was not acceptable, why this one would be.
It seems like that's a commentary on falls enforcement.
Yeah.
Well,
Ma'am, I was just going to state that the Goat Logistic application was withdrawn, so it was never formally before this board. There might have been a determination by other people from Falls Township. However, what's before this board tonight is not Goat Logistics. Like the chairman said, it was withdrawn was withdrawn by letter November 1st. They're no longer there. And as Mr. McGinnis stated, and I think the board would agree, it's not relevant for tonight's purposes.
Understood.
The zoning section in the HC district permits the sales of vehicles, which is what this use has been classified. There's a delineation between the sale of automobiles versus the sale of RVs and other boats, RVs, et cetera. The former is permitted by right, the latter is a conditional use. The actual use is not in front of the zoning hearing board tonight. We're not asking for a use variance. That is a matter for the supervisor's determination because of the conditional use classification, but it's because of how our use has been categorized with the sale of vehicles in the HC district.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank
very
you.
much.
Yep. Sorry we couldn't be of more assistance, but
No problem. I appreciate the time.
thank you. Anyone else loaded for public comment?
No further public comment on Zoom.
Okay. Matt, did we receive any correspondence through the township
No correspondence.
letters? Okay. Great. Is there any in-house public comment? No? Doesn't look like it. All right. Any further board? Here's something. Oh, I thought I heard something. Any further board comments?
I have none.
No, Scott, Bill?
The only thing I'm wondering here is on the drawing, I've got phase 1 and phase 2. What's the difference there?
And again, Sergio can speak to this, but a question about whether or not we're going to build 20,000 square feet first or all 30,000 square feet. It's not for a separate leasehold, just to be clear about that. So it's all anticipated for Civ Ambulance's use. The question was, as we go through development, whether we're going to build all 30,000 square feet first or whether we're going to build 20,000 and then build the 10,000 consecutively.
Okay, thank you.
Now, anything else?
Yeah, I do. I'm just getting confused with the parking here. How many ambulances do you currently have at your current spot in Langhorne parked today, outside?
About 40.
40.
Right.
40, and you're still gonna, this is gonna be your new site with your pulling all your stuff to this site, correct?
Correct.
So where are you gonna put 40 ambulances on this site with the amount of parking that you have? And then work on the ambulances on the inside? Because right now I'm currently, and you have 15 employees, correct?
Well, right now we have 8.
8 employees.
Right. So we have about 40 ambulances that are parked on the lot right now.
Okay, so where are you gonna put 40 ambulances, and what are they parked there for right now?
So, okay, so
We're gonna park them on our lot right here, or right here. So I think here, Vince, how many do we have?
We have 70 spaces allocated for vehicle storage on the plan, but I'll
I
let Vince.
misinterpreted, okay.
Yeah, so we have 15 spaces employees, 30 customer, which has never
I
been
misinterpreted.
happened, and
Okay.
70 spaces for vehicle storage, so we.
I apologize. Now I see what the heck you're doing there. Okay. All right, that's it. And you're not gonna have any ambulances, I mean, are they gonna be getting towed in? You're gonna have them parked in the parking spots? How do you guys, how does your business operate? I mean, how does this work?
So some
ambulances, right, so they break down. So here recently, we just did Newtown Rescue Squad's ambulance. It broke down, the engine blew up, and they had that towed in. I don't know, I think it was Rob's Towing or somebody. So then, it gets towed in, it gets unloaded in one of the spots, and then we allocate it to bring in to service and do the repairs.
And one of the items we discussed that can be discussed with our neighboring property owner, and if we go through the land development process, is whether there's some sort of small internal fence if the need be for a particular ambulance from an aesthetic standpoint. That wasn't really the subject of this application, and that will be
Okay.
vetted further, but yes.
I have nothing else.
No, I don't have any comments or questions. I think everything was pretty much covered. Cool. Mr. McGinnis, anything in closing you think we should know?
Talked enough tonight. I thank you, as always, for your consideration.
It's been a long one. Without a Wawa, it's been a long one. Okay, at the board's pleasure, would someone like to make a motion? Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Sure.
I move that the application of Civ Ambulance requesting the following dimensional variances from the following section of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to construct a service facility to sell and repair ambulances, section 20923H2, to permit parking 22 feet from the adjacent street line instead of 30 feet that is otherwise required, and section 20923G and table 4 to permit a front yard setback of 75 feet instead of the required 100 feet at the property located at North Olds Boulevard and and Lincoln Highway, Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania 19030, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Scott, poll the board, please.
Myself, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Al?
No.
And Dan?
Yes. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, with that, do we have a motion to,
Mr.
oh,
Chairman,
sorry.
Before you do that, I think just so the record is clear, because it was never brought up as an agenda item, just so the record's clear, that GOAT was withdrawn of levy one, which a water plant to the township.
Okay. Yeah, just a point of housekeeping, because there was some questions about it, that the GOAT Logistics application to house and park Amazon trucks on that site was withdrawn on 11/1. We received correspondence through the township noting so there will be no more Amazon trucks in that location. To be clear again. No, you guys can go. You didn't have to wait for that. That had nothing to do with you. Thank you. Okay.
Make a motion to close.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.